Yeah, but thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, and also I can share the excitement of Dr. D. Martin. He just mentioned many of the great things that are happening in the industry, and it's definitely a very exciting time, to be part of this health revolution. And I bet that many of us here today believe that we are living in the most amazing time in human history, given all the advances in technology. And I've seen the convergence of healthcare, biology, technology, and data science finally coming together. And some of the most amazing minds are working on solving some of the biggest problems affecting humanity. And as Dr. Martin just mentioned before, there has been a lot of great breakthrough innovations that have happened over the years, over the last few years, that has been amazing, and that will continue to be over the upcoming years. Innovations such as immunotherapy to treat cancer, or CRISPR, for gene editing. Also wearable technologies to measure just about anything, and also the microbiome, understanding the microbiome and the role of mRNA to really prevent chronic diseases. So I strongly believe, similarly to what Dr. D. Martin just shared, that the industry has been changing quite a lot over the last few years, but it will continue to change even more at a very fast pace, over the next decade. So it's certainly very exciting times. I think that one of the main things to say here is our why. And I wanted to start this talk just by sharing, like, why do we do what we do at Viome Life Sciences. And fundamentally, we believe that lifestyle choices can lead to chronic diseases. And we also believe that we have a solution that can help prevent and revert chronic diseases, which I will be sharing throughout my talk. But first, I wanted to start by sharing some data. This will be new to many of you, but it's worth recapping. Today in the U.S., in the U.S. alone, healthcare expenditures are over $4 trillion. It's the U.S. alone is it spends a lot of money on healthcare. That's roughly 20% of GDP. And yet you can see life expectancy that stopped improving over the years since 2014, and it plateaued. And now, for the last couple of years, it actually has been going down. When you see health expenditures per capita versus life expectancy, you can see in this chart that, and you can compare how is the U.S. compared to other, advanced industrialized nations. And you see the United States with, over $10,000 and a life expectancy of 77 years. And then you can compare that with, for example, the UK, that has almost 81 years and spends probably, less than 50% of what we spend here in the US. And then if you see countries like Japan or Singapore, they have higher life expectancies with lower healthcare expenditure. So it's very interesting to see that there is something that is not quite right. And then, here we are, in the most advanced nation in the world, and then we can see the rate of pregnancy-related deaths, that it's almost 4 times as high as, as comparable countries. And then, when we see also people living with disabilities and, and chronic diseases affecting daily, quality of life, this disease burden, it's definitely higher in the US than other comparable nations. So there is definitely something going on here that it's worth, understanding. And to me, and at least what we believe, at Viome, is that, that most of the causes of all these kind of burden and complications has to do with chronic diseases. Today, chronic diseases affect 60% of the US population, 60% of the US population, and this represents around 85% of total healthcare costs. So most, the vast majority of healthcare spending goes into treating and managing chronic diseases. When we see at the number of deaths, as leading causes, for death, we can see here, for example, in 2020, we can see that some of the most important causes of death have to do with chronic diseases. You see, for example, heart disease, is the number one killer in the US. Then we have cancer. Then we have strokes. Then we have Alzheimer, diabetes, kidney disease, and so on. So here, here's the data very clear to suggest that there is, a big problem that could potentially be, preventable. Why? Because all of the above that I've just mentioned, it's mostly related to lifestyle. What we eat, what we drink, what we breathe, all of that affects, our immune system. And even, if you look at a recent report by the National Institute of Nutrition, we have seen that nutritional value, the nutritional content of foods have been getting worse over time. In fact, foods, and you can see on this slide, this is a summary slide, where you can see that foods now have less proteins, less micronutrients, and also less carbs, but also more fat. So that's something that it's not also, helping, with our, lifestyle and our nutrition. And there are many factors of the nutritional value that I just mentioned, many things. I'm just going to mention a few of them here. But one of them, it's commercial agriculture, for example. The use of fertilizers and pesticides, depletes nutrients from the soil. This is not new, but it's something that has been affecting, the quality of the foods that we eat on a daily basis. Then we also have food processing, things such as canning and freezing and drying using many different chemicals to store different types of foods. That's also something that has been, kind of jeopardizing the quality of the foods that we eat on a daily basis. And then we also have, environmental pollution that creates, in our bodies. And that's something that after some time, we need something to start eliminating some of those harmful, substances from our bodies. And then finally, but not least, we have, our daily lifestyle that you can say things such as stress, fast food, working and, sitting down in front of the computer, all day long, working in our jobs. So this kind of modern lifestyle, it's also affecting, our bodies and how we then react to potential diseases. So then, one day, and this was around 6 years ago, Viome's founder, Naveen Jain, came with this question. And he said, what if we could potentially decode the human body and understand the body at a molecular level to address chronic diseases? So this was, the big moonshot kind of vision and idea and aspiration that we had at Viome 6 years ago when we started. And then, we ended up with this mission. We said that we wanted to digitize, we wanted to decode and decipher the human body at a molecular level to address chronic diseases, including cancer and aging. And that has been our mission, for the last 6 years. And the way that we have been doing it, it's with our own approach, which we call biochemical individuality. And we all know here that every other person, it's different. Everybody's different, both genetically and also biologically. So we decided to tackle the chronic disease epidemic through, with a different approach. And Viome's founder, Naveen Jain, he decided that we should approach this problem by taking into account two key insights. The first one is genes and the difference between DNA and RNA. And the second one is the role of the microbiome. That's what I'm going to be spending a few minutes, now explaining why we're doing what we're doing right now. The first thing that I want to say is that it turns out that your genes are not your destiny. Your DNA is not your destiny. In fact, most chronic diseases are not even associated with your DNA. Your DNA does not even change when someone develops a disease. So let's say, for example, I'm going to assume just for a second that I develop a chronic disease. If I develop diabetes, my DNA does not change. If I develop Alzheimer, my DNA doesn't change. If I develop Parkinson's or heart disease or any other chronic disease, my DNA stays the same. So how come if you have two identical twins with the same DNA, one of them can develop a disease and another one doesn't? And the answer to that, in our opinion, it's RNA. So DNA can tell you what can potentially happen, but RNA and mRNA in particular is the key to understanding chronic disease in our opinion. Why? Because RNA tells you the gene expression. It helps you explain those genes that expresses right now. So by understanding and sequencing mRNA, we are able to tell someone what's happening in your body right now, not in 10 years, not in 15 years, but right now. And by doing that, we can also explain and provide an explanation of why someone has health symptoms that can potentially be prevented or reversed. The second key insight, and this was a big learning for me, when I joined Viome, was the microbiome. And when I heard for the first time that we are 1% human, I said, what? What do you mean by that? We are 1% human. 99% of our genes expressed in our bodies do not come from our mom and dad, right? That was a bit shocking to me. And then I started understanding and reading more and learning more about the microbiome. And it turns out that we have human genes. Then we have, the microbiome, which is the ecosystem of all the microbes within our bodies that consists of, bacteria, viruses, fungi, you name it. And it turns out that the microbial gene is 150 times larger than the human gene complement. It is quite shocking to me. And also, it turns out that most diseases, around what some doctors and scientists claim, is that around 90% of diseases are linked to the microbiome. So why is this important? Why is the microbiome an important thing in our lives? And it is important because of this. What we eat feeds our microbiome. So it doesn't really matter, who is, what are the microbes in our body, in our bodies. What we eat affects the biochemical reaction of the microbes that live within our body. When your microbiome is out of balance, your immune system is out of balance. And that creates chronic inflammation. And when you have chronic inflammation, it can potentially lead to a chronic disease. And on the right, you can see there is a lot. If you go to Google and start searching microbiome and heart disease microbiome and Alzheimer microbiome and gut disease and dysbiosis, you will find a lot of research studies that it's starting to suggest that that the microbiome and chronic diseases are very much linked. So now to the good news. The good news is that we believe that a few lifestyle changes can dramatically improve your energy, your health, and your longevity, and potentially prevent chronic diseases. There is a famous quote by Dr. Ornish that summarizes what I'm trying to explain here. And it says, eat well, move more, stress less, and love more. And at Viome, we focus on the first recommendation from Dr. Ornish, eat well. And then, but on top of that, it's not that easy. It turns out that easy to decide how to eat well. In fact, most people want to eat healthy. Most people do want to eat healthy, And yet nobody knows what foods are healthy for themselves. There is a lot of diets out there. There's a lot of fat diets. And then, most people, and I've heard this myself, throughout my life, is that you should eat your greens and you should eat, arugula, spinach, broccoli, you name it. And then what happens is that, what if I can digest oxalic acid or sulfite? Not all greens, just because they're greens, are something that will be beneficial to your body. And we are not the first one to claim this or to say this. Hippocrates, the Greek physician, many centuries ago, he said all diseases begin in the gut. And also, the other famous quote is one man's food is another man's poison. So there is not such thing as a universally healthy diet. So that's why, at Viome, our mission and our vision for what we do is that we want to empower people live healthier lives through precision nutrition. And then there is another quote, very famous quote, that says, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." So this is what we do at Viome. And this is how, the process we are approaching this problem, and this is our contribution so far. So I'm just going to walk you through very high level of how we do what we do at Viome. And it all starts with collecting samples. We have an at-home test kit. We have 3 versions. One that collects stool, the other one collects stool and blood, and our newest version, which is called Full Body Intelligence, we collect stool, blood, and now saliva. So we collect, you can get it at home. You collect samples at home. You send it back to our lab. We have our own lab that analyzes the samples and the phenotype data from the questionnaires when you register. And then, after we analyze and apply AI to the data that we collected, then we provide health scores, health insights, food recommendations, and supplement recommendations via our mobile app. And then after that, in addition to that, we also provide and started producing a unique formula for custom-made supplements and prebiotics and probiotics to supplement our recommendations. And then step 5, which is very important step, is to retest. At Viome, we suggest that we should all retest every 4 to 6 months. Why? Because the microbiome is dynamic; it's not static, and that way we can update the insights, the progress, the food recommendations, and the supplement recommendations as we continue our health journey. Here is just a summary of how we do it. Ultimately, our goal is to make nutrition simple, right? So in the Viome app, you're going to be able to see where you are today in terms of your health scores. And we measure your immune health. We measure your gut health. We measure your mitochondrial health. We measure many different things. And then based on your scores and your results, by applying AI, machine learning, we are able to provide, very specific food recommendations and supplement recommendations as well. Ultimately, these are the 3 steps or the 3 key recommendations that I would give anyone who's trying to improve, their nutrition. This is what I do personally on a daily basis. I have my nutrition plan that consists of 3 key things. The first one, I have a clear understanding of my avoid foods. So based on my biological scores, my biological data, I can now understand which are the foods that I should avoid because they are affecting and causing stress to my microbiome. Then I also know what are the foods that are my superfoods, the foods that I should be eating more, and doubling down on eating more of those foods that are, contributing the nutrients that my body needs right now. And then finally, we also, I also take the supplements, which it's exactly I get a list of what are the supplements and the probiotics and the prebiotics that my body needs right now based on how my microbiome is today. And then, how do we do all of this? It's, we provide recommendations based on our, proprietary AI model. And how it works at a high level is we take many different data inputs from many different data sources, such as, the biological, samples that we collect from each person. We also collect, a simple questionnaire to understand a little bit more about your history and your health history. We collect data from allergies, medications, and so on. Then we apply our AI model, and then from that, we provide the food recommendations and the supplement recommendations. If I dive a little bit deeper to explain how our AI model works, is this. It all starts with a food database of, hundreds of foods that we all eat every day. And then we apply 2 AI models that we have developed, at Viome. The first one is the glycemic response prediction model, which basically it's an AI model that helps predict glycemic response using machine learning. Just to give you an example, let's assume for a second that I eat a banana or an apple. I can see if by eating a banana or an apple, I get a glycemic spike in my results. And I might get a spike in my glycemic response, and another person might not get a glycemic spike by eating that particular food. And then the second model that we apply, it's the microbiome pathway analysis model, which basically looks at the activity or the biochemical reaction that happens from many of these pathways. For example, what happens to our butyrate production? What happens with oxalate elimination? What happens to sulfite production? So based on those 2 models, we are able to categorize each food in 4 buckets, in 4 of 1 bucket. So for example, some foods will end up in your superfoods bucket. Some others will end up in your minimize foods bucket, and some foods will end up in your avoid foods. And those are the foods that you should be avoiding, at least for the 4 or 6 months before you retest. Again, and then on top of the foods, we also believe that supplementation it's super important, and we take more than 200 ingredients from vitamins, herbs, minerals, amino acids, food extract, enzymes, you name it, everything, and we create a unique formula robotically just for you based on your individual biology. We believe that the perfect combination is to combine the right foods, eliminate the wrong foods, and also take the right supplements on the right dosages at the right time. It's impossible, even if avocado is a superfood, or a strawberry, it's a superfood for you. It's impossible to eat 10 pounds or 20 pounds of strawberry every day. So that's why also taking specific supplements on the right dosage, it's super important to have the full nutrition plan. Each person gets a unique formula of food extracts, vitamins, herbs, probiotics, prebiotics, the whole thing. It's a unique formula that has been built in our manufacturing facility, and this is an example of mass customization that we are doing here, and we are providing this formula of supplements and antibiotics, and we send it to our customers monthly to their homes. So essentially, we tell you exactly what you need in terms of the supplements and the vitamins and the herbs and all of that, when you need it, how much of each of these supplements you need, and also we explain why you need it. Why, if you take a specific supplement, will impact one of the scores. For example, the graph on the chart on the right says that my microbiome health is at 27, which means that it's not optimal. So now I know which foods and which supplements and which probiotics I need to take on a daily basis to be able to improve that score and take it to an optimal level. As you can see, each formula is completely unique. Not one person is going to get exactly the same food recommendations or supplement recommendations, because each person is different. And maybe right now I cannot eat tomato because tomato has a virus that affects my microbiome right now. But maybe in 6 months, when my microbiome has changed and I retest, then it might be the case that tomato becomes a superfood for me, right? So anyway, that's been what I wanted to share with all of you today. We believe that by eating the right whole foods, taking the right nutritional supplements and the probiotics and the prebiotics is the right way to go forward, to have the optimal nutrition program to potentially prevent and revert chronic diseases. So thank you very much. And now I'm gonna pass it over to you, Javi. If in case anyone has any questions.
How's it going?
Good. Can you hear me?
Let's start for a second. So that was awesome. So funny story, actually. While we wait for questions to come in, I was like, "Your company sounds so familiar." I was like, "I've heard it before." So I couldn't figure it out. I was like looking on LinkedIn last night, and then this morning I was texting my mother-in-law, and then I was sharing her some of the stuff that because the leaky gut is a book I read over the summer, and something that I started doing more of. I'm not gonna lie, I chose Lumen as the choice at that time, but I'm really intrigued by a lot of the stuff you presented now. And as someone who's like I'm trying to take that next step and next level. This sounds extremely fascinating how it all works for, I'm a very analytical person. So it's really cool what y'all are doing. So I was like, I finally figured out, I texted her, it was June 6th, the day before my birthday. I was like I shared her like how y'all do the quiz and stuff. And I was just like, I knew your company sounded so familiar. So, it's really cool that who would have thought I would have been connected? We'd be talking right now. So I applaud everything that y'all are doing. And, a question I have for you is as we are finishing up, the year, what is a prediction that you have for 2023 about the space that y'all are working in right now?
That's a big question, big question. But I think that we are just at the beginning of the health tech revolution. I think that we have made a lot of progress over the last few years with amazing breakthrough innovations, and I think that it's not. I'm just not going to say this for 2023, but I can say that for the next decade, the health tech industry and biotech will revolutionize the healthcare industry for sure. I would say that just what happened to the retail industry with e-commerce like 25 years ago, and what fintech did to the financial services industry like 10, 12 years ago, I think that right now it's the time for the health tech industry to properly disrupt, many of the incumbent companies that have been operating in healthcare for many, many decades. I've been in the health industry for 19 years now, from different angles, and I can say that to me, the next decade, it's gonna be amazing. I think that we're gonna be able to see, fantastic advancements in many different, diseases. We're gonna be able to prevent and manage cancer in a much better way that we do it today. We're gonna be able to, make huge progress with anti-aging as well and overall wellness. But my hope is, and this is why I am super passionate about what we do at Viome, is that I believe that if we can contribute to humanity by preventing chronic diseases, just by doing that, I would be more than happy of what I do on my daily work, simply because I know that most of the chronic diseases that happen today, are potentially preventable if we just make, some, meaningful adjustments with how we live our daily lives.
No, I completely agree. I think, every single one of the speakers that's spoken throughout the past 2 days, I think the message that I've gotten, from is just like the impact that health tech is about to have on humanity and society in general. Like you said, I mean, those revolutions in fintech, in e-commerce, right? Like you would think that healthcare would have came already, right? Because it's an industry that's been around a really long time, it's not going anywhere. But I think partially, and this is just my point of view on it, the establishment, they've kept it a specific way, but now with technology and the internet, that broke down that barrier, and, while the entry barrier is lower, I feel like there's so many opportunities that are going to come to the table in the next decade plus that are going to just revolution. Like the way that we live today is not how we're going to be living 10 years from now. And that's extremely exciting. And for me, I run a pre-seed accelerator here in Dallas. And I'm spoiled because I get to see a lot of these cool companies that are coming across that are up and coming. And, I just for me, there's something about working with very early stages companies that there's this thrill to hunt that you are on the brink of something, revolutionary, that your back is up against the wall and you just got to figure it out. Otherwise you're out of business, So, I think it's really cool what y'all are working on. I'd love to learn more. I'm going to connect with you offline just to chat, as this is something that I personally have taken, very serious. We got to keep our chamber healthy, right? And
Absolutely. Now it's fantastic that we can really understand what happens, inside of our bodies in a more precise way. For many, many decades, it's been a black box to many of us. And right now, with the technologies that have been evolving, now we can, truly understand much more than before, what's happening inside of us. And it's, very exciting to me. I think that this is teamwork. I think that everyone here at this event, we are together in, working to really build a new generation of healthcare companies that will, dramatically improve the lives of billions of people around the world. So it's very exciting, and looking forward to collaborating more with all of you.
Yeah, so no, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rodrigo. Any last parting words before we let you go?
No, thank you so much. Very exciting, and thanks for organizing this event, which is it's amazing, very well organized, and an amazing set of speakers that you put together for the agenda. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, it wasn't me. I'm just the host. I'm just the MC. But I get the fun job of bringing y'all on stage and kind of letting y'all speak and learning from y'all. So thank you so much
for Glorium Technologies. So
yeah. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll talk soon. Have a good day.